Welcome to the Two Ball Brothers and a Microphone podcast. This is your host, Danny Ryan. I am here with Tommy Ryan. How are you doing, Tommy Ryan?
I'm doing well. Still bald today.
Still bald, yes. Bald and beautiful.
That's
Bald,
right.
bold and beautiful, brother.
I love it.
So
I
you're,
get a free haircut every day.
excellent, excellent. And sorry you're feeling a little under the weather today, but
That's right.
yeah. But I think for doing this, it's fun. This is fun, sort of making this transition over to video, and I had a great time this week with you and talking to Sam and making the move this year over towards more video-based content, and so I'm excited about that. And wanted to talk to you in this episode, sort of what the plans are for this year, and we've had some conversations in the podcast about. I took some of the Yoast training last year,
Right.
and talking through from looking at things from a SEO perspective and organizing our content, and we sort of went through sort of what were some of the key decisions that we needed to make, and I've gotten through to the end of the year where I've basically reorganized a lot of the content that we've created on our website, primarily through our blog, and then also through some of the podcasts that we've created and videos and different things like that. And one of the key things that you do is you create what's called cornerstone content, and that's content that's the most, like, I like to think of it as if somebody came to our website, what are the pieces of content that you sort of want to be known for, and
Right.
and they sort of package it up, which I like, which is creating like guides, and I like to think of ThreeWill as sort of a guide to like all the stuff that Microsoft has with Office 365, and here to help people wherever they might
That's right.
be on that journey. And so part of this whole looking at our content was coming up with what do I think are sort of the five key categories that we have out there, and creating guides for those five key categories. And what we ended up with was, and I'll read them off from here. I'm looking at OneNote right now, which is um, we're creating a guide for migrating to Office 365. So there's part of this is it's fun to talk about Microsoft and the cloud and all that stuff, but if you're not over on it, you can't take advantage of it. So we've seen through the years that this is just something that's key for us to do, is to help make sure people are have been migrated over into Office 365. And then the next one is the one we've been doing for so many years, which is the SharePoint intranets. So it's using
Right.
SharePoint as our platform, building out collaborative sites, starting out with team sites and then department sites, and then overall company sites or portals or intranets or whatever you want, whatever the local way that you call the place where you're collaborating together within your organization. And we have the one for that is I sort of wrote off of what Bo created a couple of years back, which was award-winning SharePoint intranets. So we have a guide up on our website. I even have it right now. It's already up there, which is the ultimate guide to creating award-winning SharePoint intranets. And then the next one, so that's the second one. The next one is we're seeing the term digital workplaces, and boy, it's just through the years that it's very similar things to what we're doing, just might have a different name for it. And for us, it's just the place where people get work done inside of an organization.
Right.
And
The same business problems there. It's just
yeah,
a fresh new term to kind of look at it, and I think it broadens it beyond just a SharePoint site. It becomes your workplace where you get things done.
yep,
So
yep,
that promise of trying to get things in that portal, that you have it connected to other parts of your organization, and it's not, a lot of times it's not all Microsoft.
yeah,
It's
yep,
SAP and other enterprise systems that where people get work done. And I think Microsoft's really thinking of it from a cloud that is more broader than just Microsoft's cloud, which
yep,
is exciting to be a part of that.
yep. Really, this all feeds underneath the umbrella of work together better. I mean, it's collaboration. It's
Mhm.
it's it's
Mhm.
getting it's individual productivity along with team productivity, and how do we help people inside of these organizations take advantage of technologies to help them to do that. So the digital workplaces is key. And there, I think one of the things that I came to the conclusion with, which is our focus in on using the term Office 365, because it encompasses, I think in the past, we've primarily focused in on SharePoint. And now with the advent of things like Teams, and people also for large organizations using Yammer, and some of the other technologies like Planner and Flow and some of the other things that are coming into play, really all these things are needed for the digital workplace. And so that's the term that we're using, and I think it's also one being utilized within the industry as well.
Yeah.
The next one is it's sort of like harkens back to our early days of creating applications and custom apps, and that's creating custom Office 365 apps, and that's really about line of business apps. It's some of these, utilizing a lot of these technologies to build something on top of it that departments can use for line of business purposes. So I see that as a key thing that we're doing. We're wanting to within an organization, we've got a lot of passion around that. And then the fifth one is I called it Scrum and Successful Projects.
I like it.
It is so we're going to have the ultimate guide to Scrum and Successful Projects. So there's an aspect of this. This is back to the choose to succeed. The sort of like, what is it? The heart of like why a lot of people come to us because we're technology experts, but then in the end, the reason why the experience that they get with us has more to do with our process than it does the technology. And so we've got a lot of content on that we've already developed. And this is something I'll be utilizing, you, Bruce, Bob, Rob, all to help out with creating content and updating that guide. And what I'm going to end up doing from a tactical standpoint is taking, like, we've got the approach page that's underneath the company, and I'm going to pull that over into the guide and see about some of this is repurposing content that we've already created. Right now, I'm in the middle. I've spent a couple of hours yesterday working on the Office 365 digital workplace guide, and I'm repurposing some of the stuff that materials, and I'm just basically
material that was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time.
Now it's time to make it shine.
Yes, and so I'm sort of taking that and just and there's parts of it that that might not pertain anymore, but there's like a lot of this. Pete's vision of this new business operating system is it really is. This is where business gets things done, which is really what a digital workplace is all about. So. Taking some of the content that we've already developed and repurposing it, getting into a form of these guides, and then the last piece of all this is linking up all the content that we already have developed to these guides, and so that everything points back to it. From a Yoast standpoint, this is what they consider creating structure within your site, and it helps Google to know what are the important pieces of content on your site.
Right.
And so those guides would be something that we're keeping up to date, constantly looking at, refreshing, and making sure they have the latest information in there. And then we're also thinking about what are the different blog articles we can create that help support that guide, and adding to those as well. So that's our plan for the year. And right now, I'm excited about getting those up and out and up onto the website. I'm about halfway there with the guides that we're putting up, and that's really a large part of what I want to focus in and focusing in on right now. We also, when I looked at reorganizing the content, we recognized a couple of other sort of categories that were out there. One was sort of fell underneath all of the migration work that we do, which we've been helping companies migrate from other platforms into Office 365. So we've got a whole set of platform migration categories that I want to develop over the course of this year. Starting with, we've already got the Jive one, so I'm repurposing. We've already got the white paper, we've got the guide, we'll get that up. And then going after some other platforms that people might want to migrate from, including Slack, Google Sites, Facebook for Work, Salesforce, the Chatter, Community Cloud, and some other different platforms where a company might want to migrate over from into Office 365. So that's something we'll be working on this year. You and I think I'm sort of coming up with a plan with around that, and I've sort of broken it off into different what do we want to work on first, and when do we work on those things. So
yeah, I think that's one that really helps build initial relationships or those migration paths to get to people into Office 365, because at the end of the day, if they're not there, we can't show them the value if their content's not there. So it's kind of the necessary work to start the journey with the client. And success with Agile, because I really think that's what makes us what makes our customer love us the most is the way we approach them, and it's the relationship that we build through a very lightweight methodology that's effective and just enough process to allow people to organize around a key problem, get it solved. And I think a lot of organizations are hungry for that. They see it, they desire it, but they don't exactly experience it. And I think we can make Agile real within organizations. I think that helps our relationship, with our customers.
Yeah. And I think with something like that is you can write about it and talk about it for so long. Part of it, people need to experience it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where we've had some discussions looking at this year, and folks who've been listening to the podcast know that we're putting 4DX into play here at ThreeWill, and we've been having discussions about our WIG for the year and coming together as a group. And it was really neat. The other day we had everybody together, and it was we were talking about, and it was getting into sort of our uniqueness and things that we can focus in on for this year. And it was really all about, it was about Agile, is about sort of like speed. There's also an aspect of this where, as an organization, where somebody is able to see agility. I think the word was agility.
Yes,
that was the word Bob kept on.
That's right.
That was the key aspect that he saw with us, and with that, I think I look at it. I look at you should be selling the same way you deliver. And so what are the things that when somebody from the get-go interacts with us, how can they experience agility? And I think it's like, for us, it's like, how quickly do they get back an estimate? How detailed is that estimate? How much feedback do we get from them on that estimate? And so it's sort of like, how can we show agility from even before they engage us? How can they experience that from us, from the get-go, from starting out, and even before we've started a project together?
Yeah, and I think you see some of the concepts that are Agile that I think we gravitated towards is kind of keep commitments. Agile creates that framework where you can have those frequent touch points and scheduled touch points to make and keep commitments and build momentum that way. I think you want that in the process of talking to a customer about how to help them, that they've got a problem, that there's anxiety associated with that, and if you can put structure around how do we get to an answer to that, and do that in an iterative way where we don't go crazy over the estimate and spend 3 weeks building something out. We try to do something within a couple of days, and then get back in front of the customer and make sure we're understanding the problem, and then inspecting and adapting to what we hear when we review our initial understanding.
just a couple other things and we'll wrap up. One was again, coming back to the content that we had up on the website, and I'm just going to read them off here. And what I ended up doing was creating 12 of these topics. And I call them Office 365 subtopics, but they're really just different aspects of, if I use Office 365 digital workplaces, it's just sort of 12 different areas that are subtopics as it relates to Office 365 and creating digital workplaces. And those topics were integration, security, workflow, search, mobile, social, video, governance, business intelligence, document generation, UI, UX, and branding. And so what we've done is for those topics is, again, organized all of our content underneath those. And what I wanted to do for this year was with each one of our monthly newsletter that goes off, it just sort of focuses in on one of those topics. And also this, for me, I've got to create a cornerstone content for each one of these. So these are at least 400 word articles for each of them that I'm creating. My thought was, for that month, just we'll focus in on that, creating the cornerstone content, and that being sort of part of what I send out in the newsletter. So I'm sort of educating everybody through the year on these 12 topics. And just sort of like, it gives me some structure for what do we, I'm not just sending out, hey, how's it going? Have a great
That's
time.
right. Yeah.
Hey, it's Danny. Give me a call sometime.
Yeah. That becomes more salesy than consultative, right?
Yeah, and part of it, I want people to sign up for the newsletter because they're getting some sort of benefit out of it. And up to this point, I think we're doing good. So I mean, I'm sort of sharing what the latest blog posts are and what the important ones that I think people
there's definitely
need to know.
some value there. Yeah.
But this I think for me just provides a little bit of structure for the year and sort of something I can focus in on covering for that month. So I've created a plan for this, and you and I have reviewed it, sort of the Q1, Q2, Q3, and sort of dividing all this content that I want to create and putting it into different buckets for the quarter, and then putting that into created a planner, going to put it into a planner, and then sort of working through that. And I think there are also, let me hit this, and then I want to talk a little bit about developing the content. We also had some categories on the website. I sort of balled all of the ones that were about ThreeWill into this inside ThreeWill category. So if it was stuff that's sort of like metadata about ThreeWill, I want to, just sort of have that overarching place that I put things. And then I had one, our culture is vital to us. So I kept one that was the ThreeWill culture. So we've got a category that's all ThreeWill culture related. And then I also kept, there was a ThreeWill partners category that I kept as well. So I sort of brought those down to, three important ones. One that's sort of a catch-all, and then about our culture, and then about our partners. The last aspect of this is, we want to do, as the year progresses, you and I talk about these different subjects, maybe pull in different subject matter experts, pull in folks from ThreeWill. But what's nice about this as well is I feel like I want to be a little more proactive with people about the content that we're creating. Up to this point, I've tried to provide some people some guidance on what's a good blog post look like. And it's typically, what did you Google last week, and let's package that up and make it available to the world, and give back in that way. But also just sort of thinking of, can I, like with creating these guides, I'm now, like for Kirk, we talked with Kirk yesterday, and he's aware of these guides, and now I'm sort of giving him some guidance on, I need you to make sure that these are up to date, and this is important. It's not like, because often I feel like people would write a blog post and it would be done and we wouldn't update it in 3 years. And
it allows us to curate some things.
Curate and make sure, differentiate between this is really important content versus I wrote this up and it's from a couple of years back and I'm not going to be updating it. It's just sort of, it's up and out there. And then also what I was trying to do last year was saying, for some of the more popular content or some of the content that looked like it needed updating, let's go back and revisit those and maybe do an update on those things. So now I also wanted to, as we looked at this year, is to be a little bit more proactive inside of ThreeWill and letting people know sort of like, where do we need content and what can you write on?
Right.
And I'd love for people, people are so busy on projects and we have to do that. We got to keep the lights on. But, trying to find out from folks inside of ThreeWill within those, for instance, those Office 365 subtopics, is there somebody who wants to sort of lead up talking about, Office 365 video, or is there any way for us to sort of have different subject matter experts on different areas? And it's difficult because I think we have to, the nature of what we do is everybody has got to almost be that utility player, right? It's got because they don't know what their next project is that they're going on. So it's sometimes difficult for people to do that.
Yeah, but someone can kind of sign up for, let me help kind of figure that out for the team. And maybe they are not the person that's on the project, but they've enabled someone to know what's out there and what's important.
Yep. So, well, I appreciate this. So this is our, I'm laying out our plans for the year, and excited about moving the podcast to video. And then if some of these topics are, if you're in the world of creating Office 365 digital workplaces or looking for somebody to help you out with this, we are out here. Would love for you to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe to this channel. And I'll add the, I don't know if we have any links that we'll need to add for this. Maybe I'll link up to last year's discussion about what we're creating for the year. But appreciate you taking the time to do this. I hope you feel better, Tom. And
thank you, Danny.
We'll pick back up next week. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.